Hello and welcome. My name is Peter and this is Web Dev Tips. In this video I'm going to show you how you can do simple fade in and fade out effect without using any library like jQuery or any plugins, doing this just in pure JavaScript and CSS. Okay, so to start I've created this index.html, this fade out JavaScript file and a style CSS. So let's load it up in a browser here and let's start creating. So I'm gonna link the script and the CSS. Then I'm gonna create some container, put some text in there so we have some kind of content. Let's get the console going, and then we're gonna create some button that's gonna trigger the effect that we want to try out. So inside the content I'm gonna put some random text. Okay, so I'm using two important IDs. One is for the trigger, which is the button, and this is what I want to hide using the button. So it should look like this, and then it should fade back in. Okay, so in the styles I'm just gonna create some basics for the document and the body, some styling of the container, and now the button so it's a bit more visible. Also the content so I know which part is fading away. And here are the main styles that I'm going to be using. Both of them have the transition with 400 milliseconds, and the thing that is transitioning the effect is the opacity. So when it fades out, it goes from opacity 1 into 0, which basically means from 100 to 0%. So it's gonna fade away in those 400 milliseconds, and that is all I will need in here. Let's go to the JavaScript. So after the document is loaded, I'm gonna initialize this fade function that I'm gonna create over here. So first I get the trigger. Second, I'm gonna get the element that I want to hide. It could be multiple elements, or it could be just this one element. In my case, it's actually a div that has two children in it, two paragraphs. And then once I click the trigger, I'm gonna add event listener for this. And the second parameter is what's gonna happen. So there'll be just a simple function that's gonna toggle the fade effect on this content. So now let's create this toggle function. In comes the HTML element that I want to use the fade effect on. So I created this fade in and fade out classes. So I'm gonna check if the element has the fade out class, and if it doesn't, I'm gonna add it in there. I'm gonna make it fade out. I'm doing this negative check in here because this way it's gonna work even when I click for the first time. So this content doesn't have any class when I load the document. So I'm gonna add the fade out, and it's gonna lose the opacity and go into opacity 0 in those 400 milliseconds. And I'm gonna remove fade in if it's there, and I'm gonna return from this if statement. And if it doesn't have the fade out, I'm sorry, if it has the fade out effect, which means that it's not visible, then I'm gonna add fade in and I'm gonna remove the fade out. So let's try it out. I got fade out class. The element is still in there and it still has its height and width, but it's just not visible. And if I click back in, it uses those 400 milliseconds, so it's kind of more pleasant to the eye. And if I were to, for example, have something under this content, that's not gonna fade away. It's gonna stay in this exact position even though the element is not visible. So like I said, this there's an important factor to check for the fading out class, because otherwise it would not be functional the first time when you click it. This way it works after every reload and every click is functional. Okay? That's how you made the fade-in effect with simple JavaScript and CSS. Thanks for watching, and I hope this tip was useful.